All right, welcome back. My fellow Madridistas, you need to watch this video, okay? I've been meaning to make this video for a very long time. We're finally going to talk about the Barça Negreira thing. You need to watch this video. I don't care who you are. Now, I'm going to show you what happens when you start paying the head of refs in Spain millions of dollars, okay? I'm going to show you what happens. Have a look at this. Keep watching. Just have a look at this. What happens to critical decisions like red cards, for and against, penalties, for and against? What happens to those metrics when you start paying millions of dollars to the head of the refs? All right, the most important guy in the refs who promotes refs and demotes other refs. This is what happens, okay? Keep watching. Now, this is exactly what happened in Spain. Now, let me just tell you, it wasn't like this before, okay? Because the world before, the 15 years prior to this, looked like this, okay? It was about even. You know, different sort of gross, blah, 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 but the net was about even. Now, when you start paying the head of refs millions of dollars, you get crazy distortions like this. We moved from that to this world. Does this make sense? But that's exactly what happened, okay? Now, before any of you complain, and I don't want to hear any sort of Barca narrative propaganda bullshit, this is math, okay? I am discussing math. So if you have trouble with anything that I'm explaining here, you need to go back to school and you come back to me when you know what 2 + 2 is, okay? This is math. This is not because I'm a Madridista. This is math, all right? So now, if you think, well, you know, maybe it was kind of a rare period. No, let's look at these numbers in the context of other European leagues. How would those numbers, those Barcelona referee decisions, how would they stack up against, say, the Premier League in that same period? This is what it would look like. Okay? They would have the best tally of any team in the Premier League. How about we take the same period and say, well, how would it look compared to teams in France, the Ligue 1? It would look like this. How about the Serie A? It would look like this. How about compared to teams in the Bundesliga? It would look like this. Okay, this was the greatest distortion of referee decisions ever seen. Now listen, you don't need to be Sherlock Holmes or fucking Agatha Christie to put 2 and 2 together. When you pay the head of refs and these statistical anomalies begin to happen, it's no surprise. Now, I hope you stick around for the main video because I'm going to show you footage that's going to blow your head off. We're looking at it through the lens of math, but if you see the real footage, it's disgusting. Okay, now, one more thing I'm going to leave you with as a teaser because I want you guys to watch the main video as well. This guy here, okay, the bearded specimen next to La Porta, his name is Rhodes. Did you know that this man owns the broadcasting rights for La Liga in Spain? Every single match you watch, every single replay, every single focus, replay, how it's replayed, and everything that happens in the VAR booth, which, by the way, in Spain are totally sealed off. You have no access to them. This man controls everything you see, every replay you see, and every single VAR line that is drawn ever. Now, did you know that this man was not only a Barcelona supporter and member since he was a kid, he lent Barcelona 100 million euros of his own money when Barca was doing their restructuring a couple of years ago. Now, just think about that for 1 minute. You don't think there's a conflict of interest? Now, can you imagine in the Premier League if we found out that the guy that owned the broadcasting rights for the EPL, who also controlled the replays and the VAR completely, had lent 100 million euros of his own money to, say, Manchester United? What do you think would happen? Okay, they would shut the league down immediately, right? Okay? People would end up in jail, and they would start over. Okay? Well, not in Spain. But, you know, we're going to call bullshit because this is the truth. So I want you guys to stick around for the main video because some of the footage is insane, but we're going to address this issue once and for all. So stick with me, and let's get started. All right, Madridistas, welcome back. Let's finally discuss this bullshit issue once and for all. Now, while I give you an explanation of what happened in Spain, I'm going to keep this video running, okay? Now, this is a video of all of the ridiculous calls that we could all observe over the course of years and years and years. We knew something was wrong, but, I'm going to leave this going, and you can watch it. You can come back to the video as many times as you want if you want to observe these more carefully, but it's about 10 and a half minutes long. I'm going to keep it running because some of the calls are insane, and I think you all need to see these things. Okay. Now, before I get started, let me say the following. For those of you that don't live in Spain, let me explain something to you. So in this country, I don't know what the proportion is, maybe 50%, half of the country loves Real Madrid. The other half of the country absolutely hates Real Madrid. So this is natural. This is part of what you get for being successful. I mean, those of you in the US probably remember when people hated the Patriots or the Yankees or whatever. If you either support us or, apparently you hate us. Now, what's important for you guys to know is that the 50% of the country, or whatever the number is, that hates Real Madrid, unfortunately, is the 50% that controls all of the media, okay, all of the media outlets, including us and Marca and even the papers here in Madrid. I mean, if you think they're based in Madrid, they're not. They're run by Atletico fan. Trust me. The media is predominantly run by very, very powerful anti-Madridistas. The referee federation, clearly, as we're about to discuss, is run by anti-Madridistas. And the football federation is run by... So despite our brand, our name, our power, and who we are, because we don't play this game, we're sort of... The rhetoric that you hear in the country is very different than you might expect. So it's important for you guys to know that. All right, now let's go back to the Barca bribing bullshit, okay? Now, this all starts in 2004. Now, I'm going to take you back to 2004. There were elections at the time to re-elect the president of the Spanish Football Federation, whose name was Gerardo González. At the time, there was a sort of gentleman's agreement, kind of an unspoken, unwritten agreement that all the clubs were going to re-elect him. It wasn't really an issue. Now, in the last minute, Laporta, Barcelona reneged on this understanding, and they lobbied in the last minute to push through the election of Villar, who eventually became the president of the federation. So Barcelona kind of, last minute shifted, put all of their support behind Villar. At the time, nobody thought it was going to be a big deal. Villar ended up becoming president. Now, three things happened when Villar was elected, okay? The first thing that happened is that they appointed Joan Gaspar to be vice president of the federation. Now, Gaspar is a former president of Barca. I mean, his name is literally synonymous with Barcelona. The second thing that happened, and this is where the bullshit begins, they changed the way that you select refs for a specific match. So, before, it was totally random. It was literally taking a name out of a hat, who's going to do what game. The Clásico could be this guy or that guy. Okay. The first thing they changed, after Gaspar was made vice president, is we're now going to pre-select and designate refs for specific matches. Now, at this point, you can start to smell the bullshit, okay? And then the third thing that happens in 2004 is that the payments begin. The payments begin to Negreira. Now, he's the number 2 guy. Now, why the number 2 and not the number 1? Because Negreira, operationally speaking, was the guy that ran the show. He's the guy that promoted or demoted any other refs. So, for example, all you have to do is pay Negreira because he has enough influence over the other refs They know how to fall in line, and this has been, discussed and proven subsequently. If you didn't play ball, you would end up in second division next year. If you did play ball, you'd be promoted to the Champions League, and you get to travel around Europe making more money, etc. So those are the three things that started to happen. Okay, now from 2004, really weird shit started to happen, and as an observer of the sport, and I think many of you out there who are old enough, you would have noticed it too. And it's the stuff I'm running in this loop. Okay, these ridiculous calls that made no sense. We could all intuitively tell that something was wrong. We couldn't put our finger on why or how, but we could tell something was wrong. Now, the only thing that really matters is you had the numbers before 2004, right? And you have the numbers after 2004. Now, again, this is math, okay? This is not up for discussion. Please do not come to me crying with your Barca victim bullshit. This is math, and there is no way of explaining this, okay? Barca had, more penalties in favor. They had less penalties against. They had less red cards against. They had more red cards against their rivals. This is math, and I'm sorry that, the longer the sample size, the more significant a mathematical sample is. Now, we're talking about, this sample is 14 years. By the way, it's still going on, but it's 14 years. So I'm really sorry. There is no way that you can put these two together. You pay millions of dollars to the ref, and all of a sudden the numbers go bananas. Okay, I'm sorry. This is just a fact, and you guys are going to have to face it. Okay, now let's move forward. So what happens if you fast forward a couple of years ago? The equivalent of the IRS in Spain, the fiscal authorities, they conduct an audit. And they find that Mr. Negreira, through shell companies, had received millions of euros in payments that were apparently unaccounted for. So this began as a sort of tax audit. And of course, he had to say where it came from. He said it came from Barca. Now, Barca's first reaction was fascinating, okay? They never denied making the payments. They said, yes, we did. And initially, they said, well, we were paying the head of the refs because we were getting reports on refs, okay? Reports on refs. So Laporta came out with this absolutely ridiculous press conference. This is a picture. I mean, this is how fucking pathetic this is. Everybody in the world knows that those boxes have no documents in them. This is ridiculous. So when they realize, well, shit, that's not really going to fly because we don't have any documents, then they say, well, actually they were oral reports. They weren't written reports. Then they say, well, actually, yeah, we did pay, but it's because we were seeking fairness in the refereeing decisions. Okay. Now, if you believe that bribing the head of refs to get fairness is how the world works, I have a very large bridge to sell you. Okay. This is the just absolute bullshit coming out of Can Barça. If it happened to Real Madrid, I would be the first person to just go bananas criticizing my club about this. But anyway, so, now, if you don't believe that there was malintent in any of this, there was a very famous interview with a guy called Alphonse Godal, right? This guy. And he gave an interview in 2012, and he literally said exactly what happened. Like in this interview, which you guys, you can find it on YouTube, he literally says, yes, when Laporta was elected, he wanted to influence the referee decisions. He wanted to be in the room when these decisions were made. And he literally, on camera to La Sexta in 2012, and he was a board member of Laporta, literally spells out exactly what the intent was. Now, let me tell you this. If a Spanish prosecutor receives all this information and they come out with a public statement saying, we have more than ample evidence to suggest that there was systemic corruption and we are therefore moving ahead with the prosecution, this tells you it's not a joke, okay? This was real. Anybody, I've just shown you the numbers and you can see the footage. This is real and it's disgusting. And again, I don't care what narrative you Barca people try to spin. It's not going to work, okay? It's not going to work. This is disgusting. It's an ongoing process. Now, the media in Spain tries to bury it. I mean, they bury it a lot. Like, they don't like to talk about this. They try to keep it at bay, like it never happened, you know. Can you imagine this happening in any other country? Anyway, look, this unfortunately is the true story of what happened in Spain. It's embarrassing to say it, but it's true. Sadly, it's still happening because Rodes, the guy I mentioned earlier, is still in charge of the VAR. And those of you watching football these days, you can see what's happening. I mean, literally not a game goes by that is not just glaringly in your face that something is wrong. This still goes on because when you have 2 decades to infiltrate an organization, everybody in the organization is moving in one direction. Like, you can't clean it up overnight. Real Madrid is the only club in the entire league pushing to change the current system. Now, if you believe the Barca fanatics, or, that somehow the system benefits us, then why are we the only people, the only club in the country trying to push for change? Look, we can all see it. I'm not going to insult your intelligence. This video had to be made. I hope you enjoyed it. I could follow up with something to do with this year alone because the shit's still happening. Or with VAR because the Rodes thing is insane. But I'm going to leave it here for now. It gives you a bit of color with, in terms of what we're dealing with. But anyway, I may or may not follow up, but I wanted to share my thoughts with you. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys on the next video. And as always, a la Madrid.